Public comment cards and meeting agendas are located at the entrance of the auditorium on the marked table. Once you fill out a comment card, please submit this in the drop box next to the comment cards. Our board assistant will collect the cards when I call for public comment and deliver them to the board table. Individuals will be called down one at a time to address the committee at the presentation table. Again, we ask that you wear your mask during the comment period. On behalf of the Academic Achievement Committee and administration, thank you for being here in attendance with us. All right, so I will call this meeting to order. And public comments for agenda items and non-agenda items, it looks like we don't have any. So we will move forward with the instructional council update.
Okay. So, Ms. Davis, members of the board, tonight, this is our agenda. So, of course, as you referenced, there is an instructional council update that will be provided by Dr. Malunge Kalambula. Amy Powney will be here if you have any additional questions. I will be providing a return to learn update, very brief, just like I provided in previous meetings. At the Board of Education meeting that we had a couple of meetings ago, there were some special education questions relating to summer school, so we want to do our very best to answer those this evening. That presentation will be provided by Laura Lamore. Because Mr. Atkins is over summer programming, he will be here as well to support that conversation. Mr. Rodney Lewis is here to discuss graduation plans, to give you dates, and reference anything else that needs to be referenced around graduation. Eric Harmson will provide an evaluation update, and Jonathan Harper will provide a Schoology expansion discussion. This is our learning management system that we have been piloting in a couple of buildings, but we are going to be sharing with you the expansion for 2021 and 2022. And then, of course, we will have next steps and future topics after that. So without any further ado, I'd like to ask Dr. Malunge Kalambula to come forward to discuss instructional council.
Thank you, Dr. Gorman. Can you hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Yes, my name is Malunge Kalambula, and I'm here to give you the update for the Instructional Council, and my co-chair there, Ms. Amy Powney, is here with me. We met on April 21st, and there was not much to discuss really at the meeting that we held, except a couple items that were on our agenda. We heard from Mr. Harper, our Director of Curriculum, about a program that we are considering to put into our schools, and it's called the SAGE program. That's a Sustainable Agriculture, Gardening, and Ecology program. It goes very well with our science courses. This program is brought to us through Dr. Kelly Christopher, one of our GRPS alumna who runs a nonprofit dedicated to teaching students about agriculture and sustainability programs or issues in the world. Dr. Christopher is very unique in her approach, being that she's probably 3 people in the world that has the degree that she has, a PhD in agriculture. She wants to bring that to our students here in GRPS so they can experience how to understand where food comes from and how to sustain food. Our target audience is looking at grades 6 through 8. And the proposal, the thinking process is that if we would partner with Dr. Christopher in this endeavor, that her group will be into our schools twice weekly for about 8 weeks in a duration where students will experience her program. And we are looking at possibly piloting this program at MLK, Dickinson, and Alger. And depending on how things go with the program and how we learn from the experience, we might expand it to other schools in the future. This program is dedicated and committed to, again, advancing STEM experiences, or the science, technology, engineering, and math experiences for our students in the district. Thus far, there's no cost proposed to the district for doing this program. It might be funded by other funding sources, but right now we are exploring how this might happen in our system. the council was very much, in support of this program being part of the learning process for our students. So we supported it, and we are moving forward in developing and exploring that partnership as that time allows. Part of our discussion also at the council, we discussed, again, our equity focus. Again, part of our equity ongoing work is that how do we provide opportunities for schools to bring forth courses for offering to our students. And that work continues. Many ideas were shared by council members, and I think with the work and the leadership of Ms. Malika Brown, our Equity and Inclusion Director, there are plans for how we're going to do some learning as a council and as a system to help remove some barriers that perpetuate inequity in our system. And finally, we discussed our course proposal communication process or plan. Some of our teacher leaders, Ms. Jane Neiman and others, worked on how we're going to communicate the proposal process. Documents were vetted and brought back to council for review and support. And I'm proud to say that we have a outlined process for course proposal that will be shared in the system through our multiple mediums, such as the info host, our email processes, and our folders where we keep our shared documents. So everyone will know how to propose courses and timelines that are engaged in that. So that was our full agenda for the council. In the near future, we are going to be hearing from a course at Southwest Community Campus Middle High. That is an update to our current course. It will be the Latin American History course. It's being developed there to support our model of Spanish language acquisition and proficiency at Southwest. Our next meeting as a council will be happening on May 19th. So we are bringing the update from that meeting once that meeting happens to the board. If there are questions from the board, are welcome to answer those questions. Thank you.
Any questions? I think we're all set. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Okay, next up we have a Return to Learn update. We have been providing Return to Learn updates to this committee from the beginning of the school year. What you will notice is that there were slight dips in attendance before spring break. That was a 4-day week, which was really a 3-day week of synchronous learning. Our students weren't attending in person on the Friday before spring break, so that brought the percentages down. And then you are probably aware that students who left our school district and went maybe down south or out of state for that spring break period of time, if they didn't get the rapid test, they had to stay home for a period of time right after that break. So what you'll notice is the last data that we pulled, those numbers are starting to tick up again, but I wanted to point that out in case you had any questions as to why there was a dip right before and right after our spring break. A Return to Learn update. Of course, we moved from a 2-day model to a 4-day instructional model for grades kindergarten through 8th grade. I have had the opportunity to be in many buildings as well as my colleagues. We are noticing that folks are super compliant. We are seeing our students wear masks, social distance, following all of the protocols. And our teachers and our principals are doing a really good job of ensuring that those mitigation strategies are in effect. Enrollment percentages, just so that you are well aware every month of the breakdown of students who are participating in the hybrid model and the virtual model. At the elementary level, 62.5% of students are participating in the hybrid model, and 37.5% of students are participating in the virtual model. You can see K-8 all the way through high school. That's what's left on the slide. The area at which we have the most students participating in the virtual model is, of course, at the high school level. Those are the ones that are the closest, 54.5% in the hybrid model and 45.5% in the virtual model. The high school model is also the classroom camera model, where they are engaging in instruction in real time when they are at home. If there are any questions you have around return to learn, please feel free to ask those at this time.
I guess one that just popped up
Sure.
is, do we have any info on why parents have decided to stick with hybrid or virtual or switch? I would just be curious at some point to see
Sure.
what their reasonings are.
Sure. Well, we can absolutely dig into those data. As of right now, it's mostly quantitative that we've been pulling, where it's just the numbers. Please select which mode of instruction you like.
Yeah.
But I think that's a really good question to ask, and of course, I'll work with Jonathan and Eric to address that for next time.
Yeah.
We'll see if we can, do some type of survey or dig into some data that we already have to answer that question for you.
Awesome, thank you.
Absolutely. Okay, next up, we have a summer school update. Ms. Laura Lamore.
Good afternoon.
I believe that this answers the questions that were asked, but of course, at any point in time, if you have other questions, don't hesitate to ask. The question was asked about the inclusion of students with disabilities participating in Summer of Success. We have two cohorts of students with disabilities in the district. We have students on Title IV plans, and we have students who have IEPs. Both of those individuals are sent invitations, as are their general education peers. And so we look at the score process to give us that immediate cohort of students that are going to make the invitation list. And then any other student who wants to participate is invited to do so. Our mode of operation is so goes general education, so goes all education, because that's our GRPS way. Summer of Success was one of 5 different options that we offered within our Department of Special Education to help students close the gaps that may have existed between themselves and their general education peers based on the pandemic. We encouraged our staff to have conversations with parents about enrolling in Summer of Success. It worked, as you will see soon. Our numbers are pretty high. We also said that we would be available to provide additional services during the school day for the remainder of the year. So, for example, if a student had a speech need that went unmet during the pandemic, a speech service provider may say, instead of 2 a month, I'm going to do 4 a month, and I can close that gap, intensifying services during the school year, currently during the school day, and we didn't have to worry about scheduling or those kinds of things afterwards. We also offered that they be provided or could be provided services before or after school, because the research says that the more comfortable and confident a student is with their service provider, the better performance we get from them. And so we were looking for consistency there. We gave staff members the opportunity to work before or after school. We also offered to provide tutoring, either individually by GRPS staff, that could be in person or virtual, or it could also be with a independent agency or community partners such as GVSU, or we have an organization that we are partnering with called tutor.com, and they tutor for the Department of Defense. They're in multiple languages. They're 24/7. They have all services for all kids, including students with disabilities. And that's that part. Okay. Thank you. Oh, wrong arrow. That's okay. Thanks. How many people does it take to coach the special ed director? So the update on numbers specifically, because that was just a narrative of our attempts to reach and teach kids. We have 735 students with IEPs that are enrolled in Summer of Success, 221 virtual, 514 in person. As of the 28th of April, there were an additional 33 students who we are going to be programming for early childhood special education. The reason that that is called out separately from Summer of Success is because Summer of Success is funded as a K-12 initiative, and therefore we needed to do separate identifiers for any preschool age student. Again, so goes all education, so goes the entitlement to access for students with disabilities, and that's why we reach to that programming population for 3, 4, and 5-year-olds. In addition to that, and what isn't in your numbers is another number for you, which is going to put us at a little bit of a tipping point. In addition to the 735 and the 33 students for early childhood, we also have an additional 228 students who will be doing walk-in services. Ms. Davis, you asked the question about parents saying, why did they choose hybrid or virtual? Why did they choose summer school or not? There are families who had vacation plans, their kids were in camps, etc., and they said, we don't want to commit to 4 days a week, but we believe our kid can utilize the offerings for GAP services, so we would like to do individually scheduled appointments. So we have two classrooms in each of our 16 Summer of Success buildings, where our staff can sign out a period of time, following all of the precautions. They can do a scheduled session intervention tutor service with a student at the convenience of their schedule and the families. And we have a number of staff members who have requested to be able to do that as well. What else can I help you with?
I have a question. Spoke to 735 with
It is not including students with 504s because those students receive their accommodations through their general education providers. So I can pull those numbers for you and get that back to you.
So I have one quick question. How do these numbers compare to everything is pre and post pandemic at this point? But like pre-pandemic, how do these numbers compare to the number of students we had engaged before?
These are by far the largest numbers that we have ever experienced for a summer school enrollment in general. And what we also find, again, is so goes general education, so goes special education, and as those numbers increase, the net population of students with disabilities increases as well.
Do you think that has any, does it, like just broadly, would you say it would be because of the virtual piece? Are the in-person numbers comparable? And then maybe they're still
No, they're
far above?
still far above where we have ever been for Summer of Success programming. For an example, high school, we previously staffed with 3 resource program teachers. We're now at a net 10 service providers who will just be doing instruction, and that doesn't include social work or speech services as well.
Okay, thank you. I guess a general question that I would have, and not just for special education, is kind of as we prepare moving forward, do we think these are numbers because parents maybe feel that students are falling behind, didn't have as much attention this year? Do you think we'll go back to an average, or if we'll continue to see growth in some of the other programs that we offer? Thank you.
something that's provided throughout general aid as well? For those families who maybe don't want to commit to the 4 days a week?
And so for the families that can't commit or for whatever reason to the 4 days a week, we do have other options, such as GRASP is a program, a long-standing GRPS program. I know that Lori Peterson oversees, and what that is it's really an ELA or math component take home. There is a online option, and then there's a traditional text option that you can do at your own pace. It's like really it's an 8-week program you can do at your own pace at home as well. And then we try to advertise other maybe camps, other things around the city that may be a better fit for you and your child during the summer as well.
Thank you.
Thanks for the update on summer school.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Davis, Mrs. Williams, Ms. Grant. I'm here to bring some updates on graduation and provide any feedback or I can to you guys. So graduations are scheduled to take place on June 1, 2, and 3. We're currently scheduled to have graduations at Calvin University. But we are also looking at some alternative options due to the fact that the COVID restrictions prohibit us from hosting all the graduations at Calvin University due to our graduating class size, especially for Union High School. So we are looking at alternatives. One of the alternatives that we're looking at is Hausman Field. We will continue with the same date structure, so it will still be on June 1, 2, and 3. And we will select an alternative date just in case the weather comes about and we have to make some adjustments. So we are looking for one specific date to have as an alternative weather date to support that process. But if you look at June 1, we'll have Ottawa going first. They'll be at 5 o'clock. City High Middle will go at 7:30. On June 2nd, UPrep will go at 5 o'clock. Union will begin at 7:30. On June 3, CA Frost Middle High will take the stage at 5 o'clock, whereas Innovation Central will be scheduled thereafter at 7:30. The alternative program, Southeast Career Pathways and Grand Rapids Learning Center, will participate with their home-based schools, and that somewhat surmises what we're looking at for graduation. As the superintendent said, we are currently looking at alternatives. Our goal is to potentially land on an alternative by the end of this week. So internally, we'll make some decisions, and then hopefully next week, early next week, mid next week, we'll start communicating that out externally to other stakeholders that we have.
Question with regards to feedback from parents. Are they sharing with you what their desire is with regards to whether to accommodate more people or the smaller venue?
As normal, parents want as many tickets as they can get, right? And so our goal is to ensure that we are maintaining or under the restrictions that are provided by the state of Michigan.
Mr. Lewis, if we were to move to the larger venues, how many additional people would we be able, is there like a significant difference in the amount of parents or family members that would be able to attend?
There's a difference in the capacity requirements. Currently at Calvin University, we can only have 275 guests, whereas in our initial look at Hausman Field, we probably could have upwards to 800 individuals outside of the graduates and faculty and higher education members. So we'll be looking at how do we equitably ensure that all families get the number of tickets that is equitable for all parties and not just a particular school.
I wonder, and I don't even know if it's an issue for any of our families, but if there are families that have chosen to keep their students virtual and don't feel comfortable attending an event like this, have we put any thought into making sure that their graduate is highlighted in a way without attending the live event?
Yeah, that is something we are considering. We have a meeting scheduled this Friday afternoon
Okay.
with the building-based personnel, and we're going to meet every Friday and at the same time to discuss those type of issues. But that is something that has come about.
Okay, thank you.
Yep, no problem. Any other questions?
I think we're set.
Thank you.
Good evening, Miss Davis, Miss Williams, and Miss Grant. It's nice to see you in person. It feels
You as well.
a little bit of normal, which I feel is very ironic because I'm going to start talking about evaluation. So it's
Right.
not very normal this year. And I really wish I did not have to put that first bullet up. But unfortunately, where we're at with the state right now is that there's no change in the evaluation law. So it's at 40% student growth. The one change they have managed to make this year was in November after really the evaluation process started is the NDE notified us and other school districts that folks who were not evaluated last year needed to get evaluation rating, so you're highly effective. Folks had to be evaluated this year, so that was our first wrench this year. And the consensus in Kent County with the other folks who do this work that I do was that we're not going to evaluate these folks. But again, clarification in November after it started, the state said no, we had to. So that is the one change that has been made. In December, we got our hopes up. There were some bipartisan bills in Education Committee to suspend student growth or evaluations for 2020-2021. But there were some distractions that time of year, and they did not get to it. And I did not know this, but in January, when the new legislators came in, the process had to start all over. And it's not a legislative priority this year. The changes in the law occur in the last minute, as they have the past few years. 3 years ago, the student growth was at 40%. There was some talk it was going to go to 25%. There was no movement at the last minute. They said, okay, it is 25%. The next year, they said they were going to do the same thing, reduce from 40 to 25. Everybody was told it was going to happen, and it never happened. So we were again working to deal with that. And then last year, they told us in May that nobody was going to be evaluated, and they said, oops, a week later, probation teachers have to be evaluated. So it's been a roller coaster, and we continue to work to make the best of a situation that is not great. And again, I reached out to our contact agency. I do that a couple times a week, and the comment I got back was any evaluation change is limping along in the Senate without much support in the House. So we are going to move forward as if 40% student growth. So as we looked at this reality, we've been planning for this for a while. We met with Sharon Pitts, HR, and Steve Petros, who is from aiding our student growth guru, who we have in the district, which is a fantastic resource. And then we met with Mary and Jerry, her feedback, and have had several conversations with her. She took it to while this morning, and I think we are very close to having a system for this year that's going to really be fair, measure 2020 practice, and extend grace. So I appreciate Mary's feedback. Every year, I think every year we talk to Mary and her, and we come up with a better plan because of our views, and I think some of those things in consideration and put it together. Another goal for this year was all teachers to have at least one observation. So even though there was a possibility that teachers would not have an evaluation rating, we wanted to make sure that everybody was observed and got feedback, which is the most important part of the evaluation system, is using it as a feedback system to improve practice. We are still planning for 40-25 or 0. So if something changes at the last minute, we can make some changes. And what I was told is that if any change is made, it may be made, but it may be too late. And we may have to recalculate. So my spreadsheet with 1,000 pieces of data is ready to go to make that change if we have to. So per the discussion with the GREA, district will used and superintendent's evaluation will be used for student growth this year for all teachers only if it's required. And the reason we came up with that is because our other option was to use 18-19 data, and that's stale data, and it doesn't reflect performance this year, and we wanted to, again, design a calculation and evaluation system that reflects practice this year. Our other performance measures, as in past years, will have a professional development rating. Hopefully folks are highly effective. We had a lot of teachers who did attend on those Wednesdays PDs, and as the executive director professional, I think I'm proud of all the additional PD that we provided this year and modes. So hopefully we'll have a lot of highly effectives in that, professional responsibilities. The word around that is provide grace. And in the U.S., it's been very difficult. How do we measure that and provide grace and reflects this amazing job that our teachers are doing, showing up every day? And that is employee attendance. I was a little worried that we've always used employee attendance, that how would that be affected by the pandemics and teacher attendance? And I pulled some data to help us make an informed decision, and it's really amazing to see. It's the highest percentage that I've ever seen of highly effective folks, and I have not taken out the data yet for those on FMLA, so I didn't have time to do that. But those folks will again become highly effective, and the numbers like that. So it's really kudos to our teachers for showing up every day and doing something that. So that's where we're at. We're going to communicate this shortly to the system, and if anybody has any questions, I'll answer.
I just want to make sure I'm hearing you clearly. As a district, we decided to have at least one observation for each teacher, regardless of if they're highly effective or not. Is that correct?
So originally, we thought that the highly effective teachers were not going to have to have an evaluation rating, but we still wanted to make sure that they at least had one observation with feedback, thinking that it wouldn't count, but they would get the feedback. So 3-year highly effective folks, they did not know at the beginning of the school year that they were going to be evaluated this year.
Okay.
So another change that we made, their performance measures will only be the ones that they knew of ahead of time, which is they knew they were going to be observed. So since they did not know ahead of time that they would be rated on professional development, professional responsibilities, and their employee attendance, we're not going to use those for this year highly effective folks.
Okay.
And I thought that was fair.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Good afternoon.
Hello.
Good to see all of you.
As well.
So I'm here to provide an update on our Schoology pilot. As you all are aware, engaged in a pilot with a learning management system called Schoology. And I believe we brought that to before Academic Achievement Committee, talking about the purpose and need and why we're investigating a learning management system. And the reality is we began the process well before the pandemic hit us, and there was a closure as a result, and then everybody had to make a shift. But some of these bullets up here are really the reason why why a learning management system is important. So these are the things that we wanted to consider. But as the pandemic hit and it necessitated school closures and all of those other things that we've been dealing with, it really became evident that we as a district need to learn and figure out what would be the best tool for us. And so one of the things that I did want to highlight is the equity of access for students, the idea that it's really a one-stop shop for assignments, grades, resources, content for any stakeholder that's involved with the learning management system. And the other thing is that there are similar programs when you get into higher education. Now, that may not be Schoology specific, but there are a number of learning management systems, but they all serve the same purpose, is to bring consistent access to content, learning, and really communication. And so this is the premise for looking at the pilot. The pilot schools, just as a reminder, we piloted this program at Schoology Learning Management System at Burton Middle School, Westwood Middle School, Museum Middle School, and Museum High School. And as part of the pilot process, this has been going on all of this school year for the 2021 school year. And along the way, Alex Watson, our evaluation specialist, did an evaluation, which included surveys. There was staff surveys, students, families participated. We had multiple focus groups with teachers, principals, secretaries, support staff, participants from the pilot groups. We did have weekly check-ins with the pilot principals. Myself, Foreman, others would meet with these principals to talk about what's working, what's not working, what are some challenges, how do we overcome these. And we really learned a lot as a system as far as what, if we want to implement a learning management system, what does it take to do it. And so so that's the process that we've been following for this school year. And we're at a point now where these are some of the successes and challenges. Just wanted to highlight a few of them, and this is the feedback directly from the staff in the buildings, principals, support staff, teachers, etc. You can see the successes and challenges there. Some of the things that we learned on the bottom is around the timeline, right? I mean, we did implement this pilot at the start of the pandemic closure as a way to help bring access and learn in these schools about being able to implement a learning management system. But keep in mind that these teachers, I have to give them the utmost credit, the staff in these buildings and the principals. They were on a steep learning curve pretty quickly because we did learn that the pilot timeline did not allow for a lot of differentiation in professional learning. And at the time, we had a relatively limited support structure because that's one of the reasons why we chose to only build four schools. And so as we've learned to scale up, these are some things that we wanted to make sure that we learned from the pilot process. So following the pilot and based upon the recommendation of the evaluation and of the pilot schools, we are moving towards an implementation of Schoology as the learning management system for 6th through 12th grade classrooms. And this is a systemic approach. It would be multi-year. One of the things that we learned from the pilot is we want to make sure that staff in the schools have access to the tool to learn and to play with it early on, rather than just kind of giving it to them and saying go. And so we will be turning on access very shortly here during this 4th marking period in what we would consider a sandbox setting, so people can learn and engage in some of the modules and their self-paced modules and whatnot. But it will be followed with a detailed 3-year plan, professional learning plan with tiered sophistication of learning. So we need to grow as a system. Finally, this is an example of a timeline for the expansion. So as I mentioned, 4th marking period, it's really just turn it on for staff. Let people to begin learning, begin familiarizing themselves with the tools, with implementation in the fall of 2021, and then continued sophistication in the implementation really 2nd semester of next school year, which would be 2nd semester winter in the spring of 2022. That is our update for the Schoology from a pilot perspective and the expansion. I'm happy to take any questions.
I have a question with regards to, I noticed that it says one of the challenges is with regards to syncing with the grading system. And, cataloging for syncing for professional learning. How are those things, going to be rectified? What is the plan to move forward with that? And, particularly this, catches my attention because with regards to the budget. We are seeing more increases coming from them with regards to this particular program. So I'm just really kind of wondering how and how are those things that are challenges for us are going to be implemented and addressed as we move forward outside of expanding the pilot.
Yeah, wonderful. That's a very good question. And we wanted to highlight these because these are really learnings for us. And so early on in the implementation, syncing grades, so like the process to sync grades from what teachers were putting in as assignments and like the school grade book, and then syncing that to our Synergy student data system. That process is essentially a staff, an individual teacher clicks a sync button to sync to the grade book. But the reality is that all of the immediate real-time feedback for student learning for both students and parents and teachers lives within the Schoology platform. So similar to what any higher ed organization does, like with their learning management system, is there's a learning management system and then essentially a student data system where there's a grade reporting structure. And so the learning management system is where that daily grade, that daily feedback is accessible really 24/7, real time for the student and the parent. And then at critical times when the grades need to be reported via the student data system, those grades then would be ensured that they're updated in Schoology, and then that sync process will happen into the student data system. So rather than, because we started out where there was inconsistency with syncing. So you might have some people that sync on a daily basis, it could be a week, if there was changes that were made. So we learned that process needed to be tightened up and that there was clear guidelines as far as how to sync to the student data system in relation to the learning management system. That's one of the learnings, the initial challenges that we had. Again, the differentiation of professional learning. So as I mentioned, some of the challenges that we had up front, and I have to give a tremendous shout out to our instructional technology team associated with MIS, Craig Garib, his team, Mike Hastings in particular, really led the charge in supporting professional learning, and then working also with Mr. Eric Harmson and Dr. Nicola Orlowski. And so we're on a pretty steep learning curve as well as far as providing the professional learning to the staff and to the admin of these buildings. And so, but initially it was pretty lockstep, right? I mean, we needed everybody to do X, Y, and Z to get people moving relatively quickly. And what we learned is that, and have built out now, is there are a number of different options as far as module-based learning, self-paced learning. Some people are more inclined to be, I guess, tech savvy versus others, and we want to make sure that we can help and work with those individuals throughout the way. Plus, we've also built within this pilot school group a pretty sophisticated number of users within both teachers and principals that we can now leverage as well. So that in and of itself will provide a much more robust support structure and differentiation professional learning structure for us that we did not have when we started the pilot.
That's what I was just going to ask, is if teachers that have been using this program are going to be possibly utilized and compensated to help.
They are certainly, the teachers and the staff in the building, the support staff and the principals in the building have been an absolute resource in our learning. And in our ongoing discussions, we will definitely be leveraging their expertise to support the expansion throughout the rest of the season.
And then just one other question with regards to this program. Is there anything kind of on the horizon that we want this program to do that it does not do already, that we are looking to kind of facilitate or work with them to? Because I know sometimes this stuff is boxed, and then there's sometimes some ability to kind of make it fit what you want it to do. Do we have anything on the horizon that we want from this program that it's capable of doing, that we are asking for as we continue to use it?
That's a really good question. So the reality is that the learning management system is incredibly robust, right? And so it's as much as it is as much learning the technicality of implementing it, you know, from the back-end connections to then just the basic use of what are the best practices in using the learning management system, right? For engaging students, engaging, you know, parents. What does the classroom structure look like? So there's some consistency that way. So those are the initial things that we want to make sure that we set clear expectations and high levels of support for, so that we can build our own systemic sophistication, right, in using the learning management system. The reality is there are many, many other functions that this system can provide, but we recognize that we can't do it all at once, right? People have to sort of baby step this and learn the tool and then build sophistication. And I would like to be able to say I know all of the pieces of the puzzle that the tools can do. I know it is very sophisticated. I would be happy to follow up with you with some of the other potential functions that it has. Right now, we were really focused on that core critical piece of why would we need a learning management system and what can it do for us.
Thank you.
I do have a question. Mine goes to the challenges and successes as well, but more so, I'm wondering, did you see any difference between grade levels? At certain grade levels, were there more challenges that maybe a higher grade level didn't have, or a lower grade level? Was there any segmenting between your findings?
Well, so keep in mind, we piloted sixth grade. Essentially, we had sample size from 6th grade to 12th grade.
Right.
Primarily middle school, and then we had one high school component. The learning management system itself is really built for a secondary setting. That's one of the reasons why, at this point, we're not advocating to move forward with the learning management system for at least this particular learning management system expanding into K-5. The platform, while they are, and Ms. Williams, actually, this kind of gets maybe to a question you have. They are expanding. I think some of that, I don't know, ease of use, or maybe customer-friendly nature of the platform to be potentially more applicable at the elementary level. But frankly, to answer your question, within the pilot group, if we could provide and help the teachers provide clear expectations and clear pathway for use for students, there wasn't a great deal of feedback difference as far as like for instance, 6th graders struggled any more than a 10th or 11th grader.
Great. And then, did you all notice kind of what the timeline was for an educator, for our teachers to feel proficient or comfortable on the platform?
So that was some of the feedback that we got initially with this idea of a pilot, right? And one of the I'm gonna back up 1 second, because as we talked about, we had the feedback from focus groups. We met with groups of teachers and principals and whatnot. And that was one of the pieces of the discussion that we talked about. And one of the biggest pieces they said is, if we can just have the time to play with it up front, right? There are some of the basics that they can learn through self-paced modules, right? And some people can learn that way and be, be pretty self-sufficient. But others, I mean, myself included, if I need additional support, I might do a module, but then I might reach out to a person that will provide the additional one-on-one support. Others may be more comfortable with more of either a synchronous session live or even in person to have somebody kind of sit down and walk you through the steps. And that was what I was kind of referencing about when we did the initial pilot. It was pretty one size fits all. We were trying to provide just a sequence of PD that everybody followed. But the feedback that we got from the focus groups really told us that as long as we can provide that level of differentiation, the teachers felt pretty comfortable getting up and running. And also the time to allow the teachers that sort of built that expertise early on, allow them to actually provide also collegial support to the teachers side by side.
So the access that we provide in these next few weeks, we believe that all teachers should have more than enough time to be comfortable by that fall semester.
The thinking is that we open it up, right, to play with it, right? You know, so that there are multiple options to do some module-based professional learning if they choose to do that on their own, but simply just go in and try it out. And then there'll be structured components followed up there'll be voluntary structured components that teachers will be able to engage in June. I think I mentioned in the timeline here, like a old voluntary Schoology, like boot camp sort of thing. So if you'd like to participate, you can, and it'll take you through all the steps and get us set up. But then we will need to follow up with a similar structure in the fall to make sure that everyone that needs that level of training and support can have that.
Another question with regards to school group, is there, I just want to clarify something you said, is there a plan for them to expand this to K through 5, or is already there and we haven't implemented?
So we haven't implemented it, and keep in mind that was one of the things. So we wanted to make sure that it was appropriate, right? We have implemented Seesaw, and so Seesaw is a platform that's currently being used in K through 5, and right now the plan is to maintain Seesaw as that platform. And as I said, the feedback from the pilot group and the research that we have done is at this point, there's consensus that Schoology may not be the right fit for that K-5 group, but it is the right fit for the 6th.
I'm just wondering, and I think it ties in with next steps, because to me, it sounds like this is a lot like what I use in my district, Canvas.
Yeah, which is another learning management system. Absolutely.
Yes.
Yep.
And I'm just wondering if it would be beneficial to maybe have somebody come share their page and kind of talk through that, because it will show them like what the sandbox is and that sort of thing, just to see what our kiddos are seeing when they use Schoology and what our teachers are working with.
We can absolutely follow up and set that up for you. Any further questions?
Thank you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you
much,
very much.
Jonathan. Yeah.
Okay, we are to the last slide, and I would like to just restate the action items I heard in the meeting, and then if there are additional items, please let me know. Number one, why did families make the selections to virtual and hybrid? So we'll do some digging into that. I'll work with Mr. Atkins' office. Maybe he has some data, but if he does not, we will absolutely get that data for you. How many students with 504 plans are enrolled in summer school? So that will be easy to answer. We will do that next time. Why is there so much demand for summer programming? So we'll try to get to the root of that. I think we probably all have some inferences, but we will do our best to get you that information. And then next time, we will show an example of Schoology, if that is appropriate for the next meeting. So those are the four I captured. If I missed any, please let me know. And then also any suggestions you have for next time. And as always, if there are some things you think about after the meeting, please email me and I will work with Ms. Davis to get that plan.
One thing that I've thought of in the past couple days is if we could get, in the next few months, an update on the academies at Ottawa Hills.
No problem?
And then for my colleagues as well, I was looking at, our next meeting is scheduled for June 2nd, which is graduation, so we'll need to look at moving that meeting. So I'll contact you.
I just wanted to clarify, the question around summer school, I guess it was more so if we knew specifically, if we were just, would be able to track if this would be like an uptick for 1 year, or if it's something that we could expect going forward. That was more of what my thought process was.
There are a couple of factors at play, one of which, of course, is a pandemic. So we can make some assumptions around that there have been learning loss and parents want to extend the school year. Also, some in-person activities that we didn't have before that maybe families are taking advantage of. There's also a more user-friendly way for principals to help enroll students into programs. It's essentially clicking a student's name and getting a student enrolled. So that may be one of the factors relating to the uptick. So I think there are a few factors, but from a sustainability perspective, will next year be the same or even greater? We're hopeful because we think we have some really good summer programming, but
Yeah, some
that
of
really
it-
clarifies it for me, Ms. Grant. Thank you.
Some of it might be maintained just in the fact that they enjoy summer school so much this year.
Absolutely. Why not? Why not? All right.
I think
and-
that's it. Anyway,
Okay. All set?
thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
Have a wonderful
Meeting
evening. Thank you.
adjourned.